speaker. We've got Rohan Alexander from Lifestyle Property.
Thank you, Chris.
Based down in Woolloomooloo. We've been using him for the last couple of years. So we thought we might bring a few guests onto these shows and get a bit of expert opinion, bring you a bit more conversation in. And for the second half of the show, we'll go into the normal Facebook updates and what's going on in the market and all that kind of stuff. But thanks for joining us, buddy.
No dramas, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to give the viewers a bit of an update on kind of your background, where you come from and your kind of size of agency?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I started as I was 18. I went straight into sales, did that for a couple of years, did commercial real estate for about 3 years, then sort of headed the journey into property management. So I was about 23 and went from driving all around Sydney. Back then you could just collect deposits at the inspection and with no application checks or anything like that. In cash, mate. I'd come back with a briefcase of $1,200, $1,500 as a 23-year-old. That was a lot of money carrying around. Then sort of moved my way into the city, was with a small agency there for a few years, built my profile and started Lifestyle now 7 years ago. 700 managements, 14 staff. So yeah, looking after a few people and mate, love it. It's great.
And 700 managements for a property agency is a reasonable amount of managements.
It's a lot, and that's pretty much mostly naturally grown. Very small amount that has been purchased, but that's just word of mouth, myself, experience, and my team. That's everything behind you. Everyone's got to have a good team.
Well, look, probably one of the ways to start is, I remember when I started investing, I was 22. I borrowed 7 times my income to try and buy a property rather than 3 times. I had no money, and I remember with the property managers, the thing that annoyed me was they said, "Oh, you need to have a smoke alarm in the property." And so I said yes, as in yes, I'll go and fix it.
They did it themselves.
And they go and did it themselves.
Charge you $100, $150.
And they charged me, I think in those days, £25. So I'm saying, I can't afford £25. They cost $2.50 or £2.50 from Bunnings or Mitre 10 or whatever the thing was. And it wasn't a big route, but it was like, no, I'm not paying it. It's ridiculous.
That's very true.
And that's I guess a lot of young investors' thoughts on property management.
That's true, but I mean, it can save you in the long run as well. And that's where people make the mistake.
And look, I'm a massive advocate now, as you know. I don't manage anything myself. But let's talk about, to start, is can people do it themselves? Look, especially if they haven't got any money, and what are the dangers? Because legally now there's massive dangers.
Massively. Legislation is ongoing change. It's changing all the time. I get confused whereby you'll get an email from Fair Trading. These are things that are coming up or are in place as of today. My assistant probably spends an hour a day just checking the website for updates. So legislation is completely one thing, but then you've got to have time. We all run a busy life now. There is no such thing as 9 to 5. People are on email from 7 till 7. You'd have to be there. First thing, your rent arrears. So what if your tenant's behind? You got to go phone calls, emails, text, turn up the door, all the things that you would pay an agent to do. And that's probably one tiny part of it.
Is if you're not used to doing it and you get the sorrow story from the tenant.
You're going to say, you're going to feel bad, and you're going to go, I'll give him an extra week or an extra 2 weeks, where, if you don't serve that termination notice when it's meant to be, you're running into 6, 8 weeks with nothing. Your bond is 4. What's going to happen with the other 4? And whether, if they're a serial offender, you might be going down the track of warrants, sheriffs, all of that. You're talking 3 months. With no income, because you've accepted a sob story.
Now, one of the classic quotes I always get from owner managers, they say, "Yeah, but I've got a great tenant."
Correct.
What does that normally mean? To me, it means it's under rented.
It's either under rented or a great tenant can change. I've had a lot of great tenants over the years, and sad to say, I've had tenants where it's been 3, 4 years and they've been fantastic. They can have a small circumstance change or a large one, whether it's a loved one passes or they break up or they lose their job, they come into drugs or, gambling or something like that. That good tenant is rubbish. It becomes rubbish within weeks, months, and just deteriorates.
But also, if they're 10 years old and they haven't put up the rent in the meantime,
well, it makes it impossible to I've come across that where I've taken in an owner's management, and let's say it's market value is 600, they're paying 450, and the owner's always like, try and keep them. It's impossible. You're talking a $150 difference. No one's going to cop that in a good market, whether alone a bad market.
But a tenant's job is to pay the rent. Correct. So it should be by default. They should be paying market rent and paying it on time.
Correct.
If you've got a good tenant, it's like,
doesn't matter.
Who cares?
At the end of the day, we all say we're good tenants, whether or not you're renting or not. But look, a lot of owners get scared. They just think, vacancy and all that type of thing. If you've got a good agent, good leasing team, good property management, at the end of the day, you're going to have other good tenants throughout your portfolio.
So very, very quickly, if you want to get a top property manager, what are maybe the 5 things that you should look for?
Look, they've got to be organised and be able to prioritise. So many things get thrown at you per day. You know, I'll wake up 6 o'clock, I'm checking my emails, the easy emails I'll get through. You know, I'll leave the rest while I'm at a PC or something like that. I'm thinking outside the square. You know, you've got to, you can't just be black and white. You know, you've got to, you know, not bend rules or anything like that, but just be crafty in what you do, in how you're leasing things, or, you know, how you're problem solving. You know, at the end of the day, you have to get, if there's a dispute or over rent or a dispute over repair, or, you know, someone's unhappy, you have to make it so both parties can live with the decision. At the end of the day, that's what it's coming down to. So systemized, I mean, that comes under being prioritized and willing to learn. So, you know, my team, they're forever going through training. I do a lot of training myself, not so much sales training or anything like that, but just more so legislation. You've got your CPD points, and we sort of just try and go a little bit more, just, you know, so we're, I guess, on the cutting edge of technology as well. You know, technology's played a huge part in everything we've done recently, just in terms of inspection reports. You know, they're all on your iPad or iPhone, when you used to have the old 3-page yellow carbon thing, and you know, they'd fade and whatnot. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've just got to have someone that's switched on and you know, will accept responsibility. You know, that I feel is a big thing, where a lot of, you mentioned before, 20-year-olds, you know, they're not going to accept responsibility. They're going to point a finger. He told me to do this, or he told me to do that. Where, you know, for myself, being an owner, agent, I take a lot of things personally. You know, if I make a mistake, I'm the first person to get on the phone to Mr. Johns, or whatever his name is, and tell him where I've made the mistake and how I'm going to fix it.
Now, there'll be a whole bunch of landlords at the moment that are feeling the pinch.
Most
they realise the rentals that come off, which you mentioned before. So what are maybe some of the tips, to either to push your property manager or for you yourself to guarantee that you're going to get the most rental? But first of it is, sometimes you've got to realise you've got to cop a
reduction. Now, at the moment, I'm carrying 55 leases, properties,
which is
for rent.
A lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. You know, they usually say 10% of your rent roll, so I should have 70, but that's never been the case, ever. I usually hover around 20 or 30. Now, a lot of them are new managements as well that my team and I have brought in. But, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Top things to get your rent up.
So the rent, obviously, you know, you've got to, you know, whether it's $10 or $15, you know, it's got to, I always say it's a psychological thing. So if it's $600 a week, put it on a $595. You know, I know as a kid, I'd be at the shopping centre, Mum, this is only $2, it was $2.95, Mum would buy it for me. You know, just little things like that. Making sure your priority placement as well on your internet. You know, I know, especially in the corporate market that I deal with, that, you know, a lot of PAs are doing the searching, or, you know, everyone's time poor. So if you're not on the first 3 pages, forget about it. They aren't even going to see your property. Making sure it's clean. It doesn't, you know, painting's great, you know, and spending money's great, but making sure it's clean. Now, I recently picked up a property just over the back here, a beautiful 3-bedroom in Milan. Been on the market with another agent since February at $1,400. I picked it up in April, came in, $50 straight off, just let's refresh it. I walked in, kitchen and bathroom, no word of lie had, you know, soot like this, because they'd had a tradesman in back in January, February. No one ever cleaned it up. So, you know, first thing, owner, $100, let's go in, clean it. You know, I leased it in 2 days. You know, it'd been on the market for 3 months. So it's just little things.
And that's the same thing we say for selling properties is
presentation.
Spring clean. It's like carpet, paint.
And you can do that with rentals as well. I mean, you know, a 1-bedroom is going to cost you $1,200 to recarpet.
You
know, and that's 40, 50
or
square metre.
Clean or something like that.
And that's a couple of $100. So presentation is everything, because at the end of the day, people are going to live there. You know, it's their home. It's not like they're going to spend hours and hours there. So it's got to be perfect.
Now, tell us about some of the nightmares. So I've done, when I was on Sky News, we did some of the things with one of the insurance companies. Tell us about the drug dens, the burning outs, all that kind of stuff.
Look, I've been lucky in terms of drug dens. I think I've sort of may have had them, and it's been washed under the carpet by the police and that sort of thing. I've had sort of kingpins' wives living in properties. That was one of recent ones down in Macquarie Street. At the end of the day, we were never to know. You know, it was applied for by a company. They were there for 3 years until anything came out. Rent, you know, we're talking big rent, you know, over $1,500 a week. And we weren't to know until we were contacted by building management to say that residents wanted this person out of the building. And, you know, we have to ask why. Well, supposedly her the female's husband had murdered someone. You know, it was all over the news and all this, and obviously not going to name names. But so I had to go to the owner, lives in San Francisco, couldn't pick up the phone.
Yeah.
You know, he's old and just doesn't like that. So I had to put this in email, you know, and try to convince someone that's 80 plus that I have to get rid of someone because they've murdered someone. It's not an easy task. We managed to do it. And the property did sit vacant for a couple of months. And I think we're going to touch on insurance, but I'll bring it in here. We ended up doing an insurance claim to say that, you know, there was vacancy and all that. And we ended up pulling in $11,000 for the tenant, for the owner, for the vacancy period. So, you know, we still had a little bit of vacancy. I think we're only talking about 3 or 4 weeks, but, you know, all in all, it was a good result in the end.
I think half of it's a raw, like the smoke company, the smoke alarm.
The $99 a year,
$99, which is what I pay, and you've got your own block, and they do.
They do their own
5 minutes, and they do 5 in my block, $500.
Yeah, it's a money
maker
maker
at the same time.
But $99
it's just not worth the liability.
It's not. It's definitely not. I mean, I've got owners in some of the big buildings in the city where there's concierge, 24-hour building management, all of that. They run their own checks, but I've got landlords that will still do the $99.
Yeah.
So they've got 2 certificates.
Because again, if you've built your wealth, it's not worth risking it.
No, definitely not. And it's hard to build wealth. We all know that.
When a property manager scrutinises the tenants, in my mind, what I do is I say, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me, because I know they've got to manage it ongoing.
Correct.
Should the landlords take more notice? And what do you guys actually do to scrutinise tenants?
It depends from the start, your relationship with your property manager. I've got owners that it's up to me.
Yeah.
I've got owners that want to see it, which I'm happy to give. So from us, the application comes in, we do a ticker or TRA check. We use ticker because it's Australasian wide, where TRA is only Australian wide. We are the only office I know of that offer police checks. So we've done that on multiple properties where you just don't know.
Ever since the murderer.
No, prior to that, but that agent probably that owner should have allowed it. So again, it comes back to spending money. So for us to do a police check, it's not complimentary, it's $38. Now, it's not a lot of money. And a lot of people say no. You know, I send a bulk email out every 6 months, all of my owners saying, I'm offering this, let me know if you want me to do it. I get 1 or 2 responses. Yeah. You know, but I think it should be mandatory. Yeah. I really do. I mean, you go to try and buy a car and they put you through the ringer, and you're paying more in rent per annum majority of the time, and they don't. So for us, application comes in, ticket check, then obviously background in terms of job, you know, if they own something, speaking to their accountant, getting a letter from their accountant, making someone else accountable. Sure. You know, if it does come back to us, as well as reference checks. The amount of agents that don't do reference checks is phenomenal. It really, really is.
And then when it goes wrong and they ring their past referee, they said, they ripped us off last time.
100%. Yeah. But it's just phenomenal. The amount of, you know, you would assume we lease probably 30 to 50 apartments a month. Yeah. So you would assume other agencies are doing similar all the way around town. Yeah. And I don't have 30 to 50 reference checks come into my office a month, let alone a year. So that's something that people need to be accountable for.